Who do you need to become to be the kind of person who moves abroad and thrives there? That's the question I am going to be answering in today's video. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Patricia Brooks, and 6 years ago, I moved from Richmond, Virginia to the south of France. And now I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives, living in a foreign country, find the confidence and courage to do that. And on this channel, I create videos about living in France, moving abroad, and finding that confidence and courage so that you can live life on your terms. Today, I'm going to talk about something I speak about quite often in my videos, and that is, who do you need to become to be the kind of person who moves abroad, but not only moves abroad, thrives there? And I'm going to share with you 6 ways of being I needed to change about myself so that I could experience France in the way that feels best to me. Okay? So the first thing I needed to do was I needed to become the kind of person who stops avoiding. Yes, avoiding caused me not to be in France until a year later, right? Avoiding caused me not to stand up my business until 2 years later. And it caused me some frustration at not already living in France. It caused frustration at looking at my savings account dwindle. Now, before I moved abroad, I'd wanted to move abroad for about 2.5 years, but I wasn't really sure it was possible. So I didn't do much to get here, except I did study my French. Then I hired a coach who asked me the question, well, how much money do you need to show the French government that you could move there for a year and live? And that was a question I couldn't answer because I had avoided it. And so that was my first assignment from her. Find out how much it takes, see how much you've got in your savings, and report back to me next week. And so that's what I did, as hard as it was. And it was hard because I was afraid to look at it, because if I didn't have enough, in my mind, that meant that living in France wasn't going to happen for me ever, right? It was this definitive moment, which isn't the case, but that's how I was thinking. That was how my mind processed that. Well, so I stopped avoiding. I found out I had enough. And, the following year, I moved abroad, right? The other thing that I avoided was starting my business in France. At the end of my first year, I thought, I've got this coaching certification. I could coach. Maybe I should start a business here. But it felt daunting, and I didn't really have a good business plan. And I wasn't really sure that I could do it. So I just applied for a visitor visa again for that second year. And I avoided, in that second year, doing research about starting a business in France or setting up a coaching practice, creating a niche. I avoided all of that for another 1.5 years until I said, okay, Patricia, you can't avoid anymore, because if you avoid much longer, you're going to run out of savings and you might have to go back to the United States. So while I was avoiding, as I said, I was looking at my savings dwindle, and that was an uncomfortable feeling. I didn't feel content here, and I didn't think I could make my move here long lasting. And that wasn't a good feeling. And I didn't feel like I was thriving at that point because I was avoiding. So I needed to become the kind of person who didn't avoid. And I am getting so much better at that. It feels so much better to kind of face what's going on and deal with it. The second way of being I needed to step into was I needed to become the kind of person who didn't take current circumstances as something that were forever, right? My current circumstances didn't necessarily dictate my future circumstances. So, for example, not looking at my savings and thinking, well, if I don't have enough, I'll never be able to move to France. That wasn't the case. That was looking at, I'm facing the reality of what's in my savings account, and maybe it's not enough. So that means I'm doomed not to move abroad. That's not true. I could always have saved more money had I needed to. I recently got an email from a woman I had followed up with. We had spoken a couple of months ago, and she was a prospect for my coaching practice. And I followed up asking her how her research and looking at her job situation was going. And she responded saying, "Oh, I am stuck here in the United States because my job is here. And while it's a remote job, I have to be remote in the United States. So I can't move abroad." And it was it made me feel sad, right? Because that is an example of a current situation dictating someone's future. And in it, she even said, "I have to face facts." And so because the current reality were facts for her, she extrapolated that and said, well, these are the facts today, and that's the way you're going to be tomorrow and next year and the year after. And so I am stuck here, which isn't the case. And I pointed that out to her when I followed back up with her, right? So that's what I'm talking about. You need to become the kind of person who sees the current circumstances and recognizes that those circumstances can change, that you can change those circumstances, which leads me nicely into number 3. I needed to become the kind of person who believes that she creates her own reality, that she creates her future. Now, in the beginning, I didn't believe that. In the beginning, before I moved to France, it was really still out of the realm of my imaginings that I could move abroad, that this was something that was possible for me. But I did the work. I, got the visa, and I had saved up all that money, and I had practiced my French, and I found a place to stay. I did all of those things, and that set me up for creating the future I have today, living here in France. But in order to do those things, I had to start to believe that it was possible, or else I would not have done those things, right? Why waste your time if you don't think something is going to happen? Additionally, it's so much easier now for me to see how I am creating my future because I'm seeing the fruits of my effort, right? I'm here in France for 6.5 years. I didn't have a business at the end of my first year. I didn't start a business in my second year or the beginning of my third year. But now I have a business that's thriving, that's allowing me to live here, that's supporting me here in France. And so I didn't have that before, right? If I believed that my current circumstance were what I was doomed to live, then this current reality and this current circumstance would not be possible. Yet here I'm doing this. So that's proof that I have the capacity to create my reality. And I think that believing that you have the capacity to change your current circumstances so that you can live the kind of life you envision for yourself is vital in being able to make a move abroad and thrive there. Okay. Now, number 4 has to do with something that my mom said over and over and over again and drilled it into me. And that is, I needed to become the kind of person who no longer believed that a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, that you don't quit a job unless you have one at the ready, right? And this was a hard one for me to break. And sometimes I still think about this, but I was able to replace it with another saying. My Uncle Bob was very supportive of my move to France. And I shared with him that it surprised me that he was, because he was the age of my parents, who I told him I didn't believe would be so supportive. And he asked me why. And I said, well, because they always used to say a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. And my, moving to France and leaving a job just feels like I'm going after those 2 birds in the bush. And he says, oh, yeah, I know that saying. But I prefer the saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And in that moment, I was given permission to dream and dream big and to go after what I wanted. So I had to become the kind of person who was able to realize when a belief was no longer serving her and I needed to adopt a new one, right? And that is the way I am today. And I will often remind myself, nothing ventured, nothing gained, when something feels like, oh, I'm taking a risk. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And it is really serving me well. It's helping me to thrive here. It's helping me to continue to grow into the person that I am supposed to be. Number 5 has to do with once you are living in a foreign country. There are so many different cultural differences and ways of doing things that are different from the way that they're done where you came from. And it can be hard. It can be challenging. It can rub up against who you are, and you can resist. And I'm going to tell you that resisting is hard. Resisting the differences and saying, wow, why do they do it like this? We didn't do it this way back home. I wish it was more like it was at home. That is not going to serve you. That's not going to allow you to thrive in your new country. Resistance doesn't feel good. And when you resist these things that a lot of times you have told yourself you want to experience, a different culture, it can create some frustration for you. So becoming the kind of person who is more open-minded, more flexible to different things is important. And one way that I have done that is by becoming curious. Okay, they do this in this manner. Why is that the case? Ask the question and ask it from a place of curiosity and not from a place of judgment. And you will learn a lot. You'll appreciate so much more. And it'll help you to stop resisting so that you can say, okay, I'm here in this place that I said I wanted to be, and things are different, but I expected that. And this is my life now, right? It is a way of stepping into differences, accepting them, embracing them, and embracing the kind of life that you want for yourself. And finally, number 6 has to do with something that is a marketing concept. It's the know, like, and trust factor. Now, they say that in order for you to purchase something from a brand, 3 things need to be true. You need to know, like, and trust the brand. If you know, like, and trust a brand, then it's so much easier to have confidence in them and to purchase from them, to give them $1 in exchange for whatever you're purchasing, $10, $100. But if you don't, it's harder. And it's the same with yourself. If you move abroad and you don't know yourself, you don't like yourself, you don't trust yourself, it's going to be harder for you to move through and adapt to new things. It's going to be harder for you to know exactly what you want and be able to stand up for those things so that you can experience life in the way that you want to. When I moved to France, I moved to the city of Perpignan. And that was because when I first visited here, I fell in love. I had this overwhelming feeling of freedom here. And that was the way it was for the first 10 months. But at the end of my first year here, I recognized that I hadn't found the neighborhood that felt right to me. And I knew that I would need to look outside the city. Now, I have never in my life lived in a city. I've lived in the suburbs of a city, but never in the city proper. And had I known myself, then maybe I would have moved to a village, a smaller village at first, instead of moving to Perpignan and then to Serres. But that's not the case. The thing is, I was able to learn and recognize and trust that feeling that I had that, this city is no longer right for me. It was right for me, but now it's time for me to change. It's time for me to pivot and to step into another place. Then I could do that. Had I not, maybe I would have stuck to my guns and said, oh no, Perpignan felt so good to me. I'm going to find a place here. And I might not be thriving the way I am here. So you need to know yourself. You need to be open to learning yourself and knowing when it's time to pivot. You need to like yourself, because if you like yourself, then getting to know yourself and trusting yourself is so much easier, right? When you like yourself and you have a certain feeling that this isn't right for me anymore and I need to do something else, then you can listen, and then you can move into the life that you want and experience it in that way. All right. So I had to become the kind of person who knows, likes, and trusts myself. And, in the beginning, when I first moved to France, I thought I knew myself, and I did to some degree, but not to the degree that I know myself now. I trusted myself in the fact that my intuition was the thing that told me you need to get to France. But then when I got here, I started to question that intuition. Now I don't question it. This is what I feel I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing it, and I don't question it anymore. And not questioning it allows me to thrive here. It allows me to embrace the good, the bad, the ugly. It allows me to walk through town with a smile on my face. And it feels so good. It feels so good. Liking myself allows me to do that as well. So these are some things that I had to step into in order to, first of all, get here to France, but then also stay here and thrive here. Now, there's so many other things that you need to do in order to make a move abroad, like getting your visa, like finding a place to stay, an apartment or a house, like once you're here, setting up your bank account. All of those logistical things are important. But if you only look at that and you don't look at yourself and the things that you need to adjust to, ways of being that you might need to change so that you can experience the kind of life that you are going for in your new country, in your next chapter, then you can get here. You can get to your dream country and you can have all those things set up and still feel like it is not the life that you want. Still feel like, I'm here, but I'm not happy. I'm not thriving. My well-being isn't the way I thought it would be when I was planning this move. And if you feel like this speaks to you and that you aren't really sure who you need to become, or maybe you do know some of the things you need to adjust, but aren't sure how to do it, I'd love to have a conversation to understand what those things are and understand your dream and where you want to move, why you want to move there, and the things that might be holding you back, so that we can determine if our working together could help get you there sooner and with more ease. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to click the link in the description, or you can go to thecouragecatalyst.com/future expat. Schedule a time for us to talk, and I look forward to that. Okay? So of these 6 ways of being that I had to step into, which one to you seems like it would be the most difficult? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, share it with friends, subscribe, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.